Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to wait for a few more minutes for people to join us. And actually, PMI Great Lake chapter is still not here. So you can turn on your videos. We don't have any presentations or anything like that that requires, okay, here she comes. Okay, Anna's here. So no problems, just turn on your videos and we're going to start our discussions in a few minutes. So waiting for more people to show up before we begin in 2 or 3 minutes. Thanks. Hi, Laura. You can turn on your video and join us. I thought Ed is also available, but I think he's just stepped away or something. So
okay. I think one of my colleagues is going to join too, but I'm in the car still headed home, so I don't want to use video yet.
Okay, you embarrassed me to turn on my video, so okay, here we go.
No problem. Don't be shy. You can turn on your videos, and like I said, the purpose is not to show like a presentation or anything like that. It's more for us to get to know each other. And one of the issues that we had with going online and virtual, and we kind of missed the old days when we got together as members of the community, is the opportunity to sit after the meetings and talk to each other. So I guess this celebration that we call it a celebration is the purpose of the celebration is to have a chance to collaborate with each other and talk to each other and give our audience a chance to ask questions or get into discussions with us. So one of our new members to the CQM community is Rod. Rod, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and so other people in the community? How are you doing? Yeah, we can hear you now. So yeah. Rod is from Arcadis. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your experience working in the community, in the construction aspect of the AEC?
Yeah, I started out, my first position in my professional career was engineering, design, and construction, believe it or not. And it was within Chevron. And I debottlenecked and had built several chemical factory upgrades. And after we sold our division, I went into the environmental remediation and engineering firms, starting out with IT Corporation. And over the years, I've done a whole bunch of projects. A couple of them have won awards. Some of them are historic preservation sites. And predominantly, I came into them usually as a is a scary project or a problem project, or get us a project manager that we can work with, or we're firing you. So sometimes I'm the original pitcher, but it looked like a very scary game. Other times I've been the seventh inning relief pitcher. I have done such projects as the Ford Assembly Building sitting on 90-foot deep piles and bay muds that was red tagged by the Loma Prieta earthquake. That was in, I think, 2008 or 9. And I guess, no, it was, trying to remember, I was still working at Chevron. So it had to be 1989. And it wasn't until 2002 that I started the remediation of that. And we had 1 year to spend their money or they were going to get rid of us. So I taught both my employer, which was the city of Richmond, and FEMA, the term lean construction. Neither one, including FEMA, had any idea what that term meant. But my life in operations was every day you don't get it done is a day lost. But as far as quality control, if you don't do a good job, you've got to do it over again. So everybody's heard this term, you can't do it right, you can always do it over. But I'd rather do it right the first time. So do your homework, make sure everybody understands where we're going from, and make sure that all the obstacles are understood and you've got mitigation plans for every one of them. And that's how you get the lean construction, as I define it, as ready, fire, aim. But I had a boss who later became CEO of Chevron. His name was David O'Reilly. And he taught me two things that were key: trust but verify, and measure, monitor, control. So I'll stop there, and people can ask me questions later.
That's perfect where you stopped. Actually, the data that we need in order to manage is very important. I was in a meeting actually today that everybody's saying, oh, we planned for it, we're ready, we have the resources. I said, don't give me just we're ready, just give me data, give me something that you can show that you did resource management and you have some time for and bandwidth to do if something happens or emergency happens, because that's when we're hurt. Is the stuff that we plan for, we can do. I mean, we know how to do them, but the things that we're not prepared for are the things that are causing us issues and problems. And the way to prepare for it is to have contingency plans and to have data to tell us how to handle issues and problems like that. Ed is actually our pioneer in digital transformation in the CQM community, because he started the FTQ 360 long time ago on the basis of collecting information and data through his software and his checklist system. Ed, do you want to talk a little bit more about FTQ 360 for
sure, but I have a question. Is it Rod? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Is how does first-time quality figure into your definition of quality?
Like, could you say that again? First-time quality?
Well, yeah. How does the absence of defects figure into your definition of quality? Building it right the first time.
That's a broad question.
It's not a trick. It's really not a trick question.
There's no absence of defects. I've studied what I call the metrics of statistical quality control and data quality. And there's two things. One, a dynamics of anything you do has, a range that you can get. If the results are in this range, you're fine. If the results go off to one side or the other, your standard deviation of acceptable results.
Process capability, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have to, as a lot of my friends have said, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting the same results. So if you're not happy with the results you have, you've got to stop doing what you're doing. And but as far as going to zero defects, that's the definition of what is a defect. And my goal is that we understand what the parameters are and what our goals are, and are we achieving the results we want? or are we missing the mark? And so part of the idea is that for quality,
okay. So what happens if you miss the mark and then you correct it by fixing the defect and then you hit the mark on the second time? Is that
by coincidence?
Is that the same quality? Is that still quality?
When I say measure, monitor, control, I really mean it. You've got to know what you're measuring. You've got to check it. And if it's not meeting your goals, then you've got to say, okay, what are we doing wrong? How did we get the results we didn't want the first time? And what are we doing now to make the changes so that the next time we go through this pace,
right,
we're getting the results we want. So it's not happenstance, if that's what you're wondering about.
A virtuous cycle there of getting better. Yeah.
And this is really what artificial intelligence is too. When you get right down to it, you get results, you feedback. And I took process logic control, graduate level. And then I actually went to instrument school. And yeah, that's scary stuff, isn't it? But if we look at our Bode diagram and we look at our offsets and we're trying to get back to where we want to be, you've got to understand how far you take things for the next correction. And part of the issues with a lot of project and quality control is overshooting your boundaries. I had a boss once that told me, I want you to inspect everything in this company, every iota of information and data. And I said, well, if there's 10 of me, I can do that, but I can't do that with the amount of time I have. What I can do is look for the outliers. And my Chinese friends say every nail rising gets pounded down. But the trick is to identify what's your anticipated results. If you don't define what your anticipated results are first, nobody knows what they want you to get. So then you say, are we meeting our anticipated results? And if we're not, what are we doing that's hindering us from being able to get those results? So if you get to the results you want, happy days. If you're not, then you need to go back and say, okay, let's rethink about what we're doing. What's our approach and why are we not getting the results we want? And a lot of times it is truly communications, that what you thought somebody said or what they thought they heard are a dichotomy of what's going on. And so a lot of times we've got to define what's inside, the black box that we only put inputs and we get outputs, but we don't know exactly what happens inside. And as long as that black box is defined well enough that your inputs and outputs get to where you want to be, the details of what's going inside don't really matter. The dynamics of the system, we call it degrees of freedom on a variable equation.
Well, yeah.
Over defined, you can't get to ever where you want to be.
Right. And well, I think it's really good. One of the things I love about construction is that actually compared to some other industries, like you were in digital designs, I came from aerospace, in a different life, and construction is a lot simpler in many ways than some of these other industries. And the level of maturity of our quality management in construction is much lower than these other industries. And I feel that even, kind of like forums like this that Harry, that you're putting on now are really important because it helps the industry get some traction as far as being able to mature a little bit, to kind of get up to the next level. And so it's a real challenge, but I think this whole digitization that we're going through now as an industry is a real opportunity for us to level up.
It is.
I think we are way behind other phases of construction, that when we come into the execution phase that we're at right now, and we're the laggards.
So Ed, are we not measuring the right things?
Well,
Set an open question.
No, that was like a double. That was a like loaded question. It's like not measuring. Like that would be assuming that there's measuring going on. So like you like skipped about 6 steps there. But
and that's part of what we're trying to do in
Yeah.
this community is to raise awareness, discuss these methods and techniques, and hopefully introduce new methodologies and maybe new tools that are available to our quality community.
Yeah.
And the thing that a lot of people have a misconception on for when they hear CQM, they think we're just talking about the actual, like maybe concrete testing that is quality assurance, or we're just looking at a particular maybe technical stuff. We're talking about anything that could improve the likelihood of the success of your project or whatever you're doing. So
anything that needs to go right.
Exactly.
Anything that needs to go right for a project.
First time.
Isn't it? Yeah, right. And we want it to go right the first time. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just a little introduction to myself before I get going is that I'm the founder of a software company called FTQ 360. And actually that FTQ stands for first time quality. Okay. And it's like an inspection and quality management app. And I think the interesting parts about this last year that we've been getting into is very much into the energy, the oil and gas, solar, the large solar farms, wind farms, and things like that. These are really kind of interesting. And so we're basically have figured out how to digitize the whole project, like, as far as like the quality control goes with all the players that are involved in this, getting kind of interesting. So it's kind of like raising the level of digitization on the execution phase of the project, moving it up to a level that is commensurate with the planning phase of the project. Because my opinion right now is that the BIM and all the, and the planning is really sophisticated and mature as far as digitization goes. And when it gets to going onto the project itself, we're getting better at, let's say, document control to be able to have these documents accessible into the field. But when it actually comes to the build and verifying that, if quality is the definition of quality is meeting those expectations that are laid out in specs and drawings, that the only part that we're really not digitizing is that feedback loop on whether or not we're actually meeting those expectations.
That's actually what you just mentioned about the maturity of, for example, scheduling with P6. I think it's perfect. I mean, what else can you add to the scheduling and digitizing the scheduling? However, as complexity is added to it, the basic things such as communicating the right expectation or interacting and integrating the things that we're doing together, they become an issue because you're looking at this complex schedule and people are not keeping track of those requirements or expectations because it's so complex. And that's why one of our events was talking about lean construction, meaning how can we reduce handoffs? How can we reduce decision-making points? How can we help each other in doing our job better by identifying where those handoffs are going to be and reduce the waste and delays and stuff. So I totally agree with you. In some aspects of construction, we see a lot of good digital transformation and digitization and using digital tools. But then other areas such as BIM, for example, and I still think that, especially the US market, we don't see BIM to be used as a requirement. Maybe in Europe, it has become a requirement now with a lot of projects, but in the US, we don't see that initiative to say, hey, we need to have BIM drawings or BIM models in order to start a construction project or whatever. So next year, most of our topics is going to be on digital transformation and getting more tools that will help the construction community to transform to construction 4.0.
I tell you where we also have a challenge, and if just shut my mic off, okay, because Pam has not said a word. Hi, Pam.
Hello, and I do have a perspective. I work in engineering, and my firm designs HVAC, plumbing, lighting, electrical distribution. So I do have a perspective of what's being tracked, what's not being tracked, and that transition from BIM to field that you're talking about. It's interesting. So please go on.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to accomplish, hopefully, in today's meeting is, because we're getting together as a community and giving people a chance to have their thoughts maybe spoken and discuss what they're thinking, is where do you see the CQM community? How can we collaborate more? What discussions and topics would you like to hear and see in the future? With the theme that we're saying is going to be digital transformation, but of course, you're going to see issues and panelists and topics discussed mainly on the management aspect and how we can collaborate with each other and interact with each other. So first, that was one of the issues that I wanted to ask everybody to kind of turn on their videos and mics. So this is like everybody's talking. It's not a presentation. It's not like only a few people speaking and talking. Here's Dr. Usman. But we want everybody to kind of chip in and kind of give their ideas and thoughts of what they think the organization needs to grow, as well as the changes that we made. For example, today's event, we have it at 3 p.m. Pacific time. And then I think the Eastern side is 6 p.m. on Friday.
Oh,
so for a lot of people,
I didn't notice.
For a lot of people, this has been a new change because most of our events were on Tuesdays and usually they're earlier. So what do you think about that? How can we get more people engaged into these community of practice? This is what I call it, is where people can feel comfortable to discuss their views and things and thoughts. Hi, Laura, how are you doing? You're on mute. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really glad you're holding these. We've been doing construction quality for 20 plus years in the Bay Area, all the big projects, BART and high-speed rail. And we just recently joined the Giant Magellan Telescope, which is a very exciting opportunity. So my history prior to transit construction was in oil and gas and energy also. So I worked with Chevron for a while. I heard Rob talking about that. I also did a lot of work with power plants and the Electric Power Research Institute and trying to help them improve their processes and do root cause analysis and all kinds of things that were somewhat of a challenge because we were doing it with the workforce and some of them were at best high school diplomas. So it was, they really picked it up and they really got excited about it. And it was really a great experience.
Actually, one of the things that I always tell my friends and people that I work with, Dr. Usman is here. I hope he can turn on his video and join us. Dr. Usman is my mentor. And actually, when I was studying for construction project management in Wayne State in 1999, we didn't have a construction management department in civil engineering. So that was like, I was like, I think the 5th person who graduated that program at the time. So it's a new concept just to talk about construction project management and to think about construction quality management as the next phase is even newer concept than anything else. So pioneers like Ed would feel kind of discouraged maybe if they see there's not much maybe reception on the discussions that he has and the vision he has, because it's such a new concept that many might not have grasped it totally. And then maybe we are not using the right communication channels. For example, one of the discussions I had in a program this morning when I had the core, we call it core, it's for engaging other new maybe employees and retaining the employees that we have. And we're discussing about attracting younger generation to Slack. And one of the discussions I had is like, are you communicating with them in the right channel? Because the young generation, they're not watching Zoom meetings, or they're not coming to websites to pull information. They're looking at, I don't know, Instagram and TikTok or whatever. So you need to communicate and bring that message to them through those channels. So that's another thing. Yeah. Have you guys heard about this app called Clubhouse? Is anybody on Clubhouse from this group? No? Okay. If anybody has any experience working with Clubhouse, that was one of the things that I was thinking, is that the new generation, they like to talk. It's not like the older generation that they keep it to themselves and they want to be asked to talk and their turn to talk. The younger generation, they actually talk over each other. That's the problem. So Clubhouse is an app that allows people to talk and discuss their thoughts and work together and collaborate with each other on a topic. And it's audio based. There's no video. So a lot of people that have their videos turned off right now, to me, are very introverted, or they're not ready to participate in these discussions. But if they want to like participate in audio mode or something, that's another thing that Zoom allows you to do, audio and video. So what do you think would be the best because for today's event, we had 227 people signed up for it. Do you believe that? 227 people said that they're gonna come and meet us here, but we got only like 16. So either the timing is, there's something wrong with timing, or just because the fact that we have this live on YouTube channel. I don't know how many people are watching it on YouTube, but we have it live. We record these meetings so people can watch it at a later time. And it could be that that's the reason that people don't feel that they need to sit in the live event, and they can just come back and listen and learn from us in their own time and with their own speed, because you can speed it up at 2x speed. And that's the way I watch most of my videos. So I don't know. Hello, Dr. Usman. How are you doing?
Well, finally, I think
you got the camera.
was able to get permission from the system to make an appearance. Everybody, as Honey mentioned, he and I go back 20 plus years when he was a graduate student at Wayne State University, and I was the head of the construction management program, also head of the department. And I focused on two things which kind of are coming together, and I've written up some, but not necessarily enough scholarly papers on it. But I think I put a good summary of the relationship between safety and quality that I'm getting a lot of hits. It's kind of a conference proceedings. It's getting citations and hits, but doesn't really have doesn't carry the weight of the peer-reviewed journals. But in any event, those are the two issues that I thought that, and the third one was ethics, and Honey and I talked about ethics. We thought that there could be some parallels between these three issues. And I'm very familiar with the safety, how safety issues developed in this country, because I got into it early enough. When Stanford studies and all of that were completed, the cost effectiveness publication came out showing that really the key people to promote safety are the owners. And I have a belief that we could carry that on to quality and also to ethics and compliance. So there could be some parallels. Although safety, because of the EMR concept that was directly related to workers' compensation insurance, became sort of a low-hanging fruit of those three. And I think it got developed to a point that now I don't really know too many what I would consider to be serious and major construction firms that really do not look upon safety as one of their most important pillars. of performance and pillars of simply prestige and just being able to stay in business.
Well,
I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll say that, in different industries, they have different strengths.
Mhm.
But we have a couple people here who also have some experience in oil and gas.
Mhm.
And I would say that's an industry where they are much more successful in their construction and everything of integrating quality and safety. That there's a concept of doing it right the first time safely.
Right.
And, like even the equipment that they are QCing has a huge safety component to its operation and environmental, right? Blow off preventer, gotta work,
Mhm.
So I think that there's some best practice models in other industries that general construction could actually adopt very nicely.
And benchmark from that.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
exactly
You're
what
working in
we're
a
talking about,
laboratory,
yes.
right,
Mhm.
Harry? So,
Yes, yes.
I
in the
mean,
lab, yes. Mhm.
I'm sure that the quality and safety talked with in the same breath.
That's what I'm trying to promote, is the way that I look at quality is compliance, and risk and safety is also part of quality, meaning that safety management and other risk management also comes under the quality improvement. Because if you don't have quality planning, for example, if you don't have quality management, you're not going to have a safe environment. So that's how Dr. Usman is saying that they're interacting with each other and they're interrelate with each other. Is if you are a professional, ethical person, you're not looking for shortcuts. You're looking for the right way to do things, which is the safe way to do it. So I always say safety first, quality always, because in construction, you can't say quality first. Everybody's like, no, safety first. And of course, safety is always first, because we want everybody to go home safe and in healthy condition, or better than what they came in for. But again, if you don't do the proper planning, controls, and all those other stuff that we're talking about in the quality management, how can you create this safe environment for people? Another thing that Laura is helping us to do is promote our interactions with the students. Dr. Usman is from university, and Laura is also working with the Golden Gate. Is it Laura that you're working with right now? Which university are you working with? I thought, yes.
Oh, I taught at San Jose State for a while. I taught at a couple of universities that were doing education, mostly for overseas students, International Technological University and Silicon Valley University here. So yeah, all sorts of different places trying to get the word out, both in quality and process improvement.
Exactly. So that's the thing, is I try to connect, because I taught in Wayne State and Lawrence Tech, and now I'm trying to connect with Stanford's construction project management department, and we're having very difficult time connecting with students, because students don't seem to find the quality management as their goal, or it's not like a, I hate to say this thing, but it's not a sexy subject for them, because they want something like new, something that is talked about in the media or in the social media. And how can we, that's the other thing that we want to collaborate on. How can we promote thinking quality and quality mindset and quality excellence? I mean, these community of practices would be best place for people to come in and think and learn about different topics and discuss their questions, but we don't see that many. And again, I said the interest was very high, but the reason that we have less people here in this event, because we usually have 80 to 90 people in our events when they know there's a presentation. But when there's an open discussion topic like this, people are less they're shy to come, or they're less interested to participate.
Harry, I'm sorry, just very quickly. I guess how you promote quality should be no different than safety. I think it boils down to dollars and cents. You know, if you have a lot of rework, if you have a lot of lousy work that is rejected, or you get reduction in your payments as a contractor and so on, and you look at your bottom line, poor quality equates to poor income or poor success in your project performance and finally in your bottom line. So if you remember, one of the first studies we did with Phil Mansour was he took a bunch of cases where he estimated, because the numbers were not available, he estimated the costs associated with rework, and they were huge. And we said that, and I don't think we invented that, because that concept was circulating around at the time with all these quality gurus. Cost of quality is equal to cost of rework, and then there's more, and then you really have to invest, obviously, just like in safety, you have to invest in quality. So add that. But then if you look at the profit side of things, and the essentially the advantage that you gain by good quality, delivery assurance of good quality, you get ahead. And I think that can be mathematically shown, and through project data. And I think this has been done to some extent, but not really as much and as clearly as it should have been.
Well, I have an interesting, we're in the software business, and I write about quality, actually not to convince other people. I blog a lot. And the reason I do it is not to convince people, but is to attract people who kind of think along the same lines. Like, so that's how we meet, basically kind of like people collect together a little bit. And as a software provider, I get people coming to me at different levels of maturity. And it was just this last week, this woman's this is the problem for us to solve as a team. It's a new quality manager that came to a general contractor who was hired because the customers were saying, you don't have good quality control. You have no good quality practices. And she has no idea where to start because they got nothing. They just been doing whatever they do. And she's supposed to, pull them
that's
up.
One of the first steps is to create process and procedures, right? To tell people how to do their work and where to start from. And I think that's the basic quality management concept.
Well, but this is a problem that she has. She can't even sell. And I was on, we did a demo, okay, and I got this vibe that was going on, like, this guy's trying to shoot us down. This guy she loves us as a quality manager, but the operations manager doesn't want to change a thing, So I'm feeling this dynamic. And then after our demo, I talked to her and I said, boy, there was a lot going on in that meeting. They're not all on board, are they? She says, no, they are not. And so even before we can even talk about software, it's like she wanted me to sell their company on quality to begin with. And that was something that, and she didn't have the tools to do it. And it's a must before she could even start to do anything, to say that, oh, we need to do procedures or whatever the first step is. When you have half of the senior management team going, I don't want to change.
And that's part of the quality culture that I think it should come from top management down. Once you have the strategy and you have the will to promote quality in your organization, you're going to support it by giving the proper resources, giving the proper time to develop those relations between different people, especially the RACI matrix that we talk about.
But that's what top management needs to do. But her job is to get top management into that role.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
You've got to have a quality champion. I think it's a lot about quality champions and understanding what that means. In a lot of the projects I work on, which is transit construction, so heavy rail construction, they're not really very educated on even what quality is. They confuse QC and QA. They always say them both together like it's one thing. They don't understand the difference between them. They can't define quality, and they think that we're going to work in a room over there by ourselves. They don't understand that you need a comprehensive quality management system that involves the entire organization, from how they hire and fire and train their own people all the way down. And unless they get that, we can't do the full job we need to do to ensure that requirements are met, which is what we're all about. So I tried to present something to High Speed Rail. I was talking to the head of risk and systems engineering there about how quality and safety integrate. And thank you, Dr. Usman. I agree with you completely on that. Also on quality and risk, because ISO 9001 2015 had just come out. This was in 2015. I was talking about the integration with risk and the integration with systems engineering, because we work with a lot of systems engineers, or more and more of them in our industry now. And they're all about identifying requirements, defining them, and breaking them down to smaller levels and then tracking them. And we're all about making sure there are processes in place to ensure they get met and that the verification validation happens. So those all work hand in hand. And if people can see the integration of all these components together, we're basically all the people that we don't do the design and construction. We do everything else that makes sure that those things happen well. And if they can see us as part of that, then they see us integrated with project management, which was also part of the presentation I was giving. And if you can see the integration with project management, you raise us to the level of the project manager and have us reporting to the principal in charge, which is where we're supposed to be anyway, to be independent and have the authority to stop work. So
I love that. Yeah,
let me make a statement and observation. Is the bottom line for every senior manager, every principal of any organization is bringing your dollars and your profits to the bottom line. And if we don't put our metrics into saying quality and safety bring you more dollars to have as income stream, because everything you build that's not quality has to be undone. So the hours are lost, the raw materials are expended, they usually become trash, and time is lost. And all those things are valuable resources that if you put it in that perspective, and then, for safety, if you have low quality stuff, or you have systems that are dynamically where, when you were in the aeronautics and we had a jets that had oversubscribed how they were controlled, and they ended up, the Boeings were crashing because they didn't anticipate the quality of the results. So a lot of times, if we're not doing quality to begin with, we're not getting the product we want. We're losing resources that can never be recovered. And I don't want to spend my time doing two things: explaining to my boss why we're not making any money, or visiting somebody in a hospital. So, and they
actually
go hand in hand.
The reason I think quality stayed behind, for example, safety, is exactly the same thing that you just mentioned, is that people don't want to give that bad news to somebody saying that they work in an unsafe environment, or they don't want to get that scrutiny from the regulations like OSHA or the government that made regulations on safety. So when I started actually my construction career, from transitioning from civil engineering, I was designing water main and sewer before I got into constructing them. My first actually activity was being safety officer. And this was like in 1997-8 at the time. And I remember they hated the safety officer because they looked at him as the police guy, like walking around just to pick on people, not as an integrated part of the team trying to promote a safe environment and for their own good. So they would drop like bolts, and they would watch me see if I can slip. I would slip on like ice if I don't watch myself or something like that, because they wanted to say, hey, see, the safety guy, he's not safe either. And they weren't thinking team work, or they weren't thinking that we are team members and teammates. And I had actually to fire like two people. I would suspend them for 3 days because they were working on very high elevation without harness and no support and stuff. And they actually sent death threats to my house saying, next time you cut our paycheck, we're going to come and cut you or something like that. So it was dangerous at the time. People didn't have the culture of understanding safety is for their own good. Now we're talking about quality, and it's based on doing better performance, more efficient, being more productive, saving money. Government is not going to have regulations on that. It's where your brand is going to talk. That's where your sales come, because people know you have good quality. That's why they want to have your product or your management or your help. So you can't regulate that. You can't make people and force people to have good quality. And things like LEED, which was our first actually event for 2020. We participated with US GBC Detroit, and we did a joint event on leadership in energy and environmental design. And the thing that I see is, because there's no regulations on it, there's no enforcement on going with LEED recommendations. People are saying, well, we're going to use the strategies. We're going to think of how to use it in our building, but we're not going to go for that plaque of getting a LEED certification for our building, because it's too expensive. And we're not going to afford going for that one additional point or whatever to get that additional gold and silver or platinum. So that's the case, and that's the issue with quality, is until it becomes a right, where people are going to ask for it and say, you know what, that's my right. I'm paying for this. I want good quality, and there should be some minimum quality requirements that enforces and is enforced in the industry and requires people to do it that way. Then people are going to pay attention to it. And that's one of the things that we're doing, is quality assurance based on the specifications and the requirements that the owner sets, because of regulations and other things like the environment and other jurisdictions. So that's where I see where the quality management is lagging and might have issues. But as we're going into future with digital transformation and seeing that people are using more and more digital tools, I think that's when people are just going to come back to these management concepts to see how they can be lean, how they can use these tools to become more efficient and productive. So that's another thing that we are going to talk about, hopefully in our future events. As you know, our events are quarterly. So it's every 3 months. So that's one of the reasons people kind of fall behind on some of our events, because it's not like weekly or monthly or in high frequency. So it's end of each quarter, like end of March, end of June, end of September, thinking that each company and organization is going to have their own community of practice within their own organization to do the same discussions. And this is how we can collaborate with each other in bigger events under PMI. What do you think? What do you guys think about that? Do you think we should have more meetings, or do you think we should have a different platform for these meetings? Because we're going to keep these virtual meetings even after the pandemic. So we think it's a good vehicle to have more people from different areas and with different expertise to join our community, and we benefit from their input. Whereas like we can add the in-person events as well, so we can do local interactions with our members.
Harry, let me make a couple of points and maybe a suggestion. First of all, I like Ed Caldera's statement regarding that, quality is not really necessarily the property of one owner, which is the construction industry. Different industries have possibly, fundamentally, they may be the same, but there may be variations from industry to industry, how quality is regarded, how quality is defined, implemented, evaluated, etc. So I think that should be one of the themes. The other theme, and then you will know that this is not the first time I'm coming from that angle, is I think there is a big role for design quality to play in construction, manufacturing, whatever quality. And as I indicated to you, Wayne State just hired a new faculty member who just completed a research study at CII, Construction Industry Institute, on design quality. And I have not started interacting with her closely, but but I think this week I have a meeting with her, and I'm going to try to get her involved with your group so that she has a lot to offer from the design aspects, at least from whatever research she has done. But I think the suggestion I have is, I think it is good to really have these, open-ended discussions, and a lot of people, contributing some very innovative and very valuable thoughts. But I think in order for this group to make meaningful progress, there has to be some kind of an agenda, and then, maybe a list of, I'd say, 10 topics, or maybe 8, maybe more, I don't know. And then each time, as discussions are proceeding, uh, I think there should be some focus on a topic. Otherwise, there are too many people saying a lot of good things, but then how are you going to make them gel? And then, let's say a year from now, when you talk about progress, you know, I think a structured approach to this would really be helpful, in my opinion.
Good point. Good point. I'll get back to that. Anybody else has any inputs? I think Laura wanted to add something. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I agree again. I think having some kind of structure and a way that we can talk about things is important. There's so much to talk about and so many difficulties. And of course, we all do work in slightly different industries because, one type of construction is very different from another and your audience is different. I think we need to talk about what our role is partly in educating the agencies. I don't know if anybody else is working on that. We're trying to do that. We're meeting and doing lunch workshops with agencies, trying to explain quality to them, helping them understand that it's about requirements and how well they write the requirements documents. It's going to impact what they get in the end. And so procurement is a huge portion of this, doing it right the first time approach. If you don't do your procurement right, everything else is going to fail afterwards. And so we're doing a lot of that sort of thing. I think defining what it is that those topic areas are is going to be important. We have a lot of great ideas of things we've tried on projects that I'd love to share. And I'd also love to hear what other people are doing and what successes you're having or not. And we can tell you about our successes and failures too. So I think it would be really helpful. I'd like to see something like that.
I really enjoy hearing about some of your things that got real good traction and kind of explored some interesting aspect of quality, as a little case study, just to start the conversation going about something like that. I would find that interesting.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that. I can do that today or another time, whenever is appropriate.
Sounds good. Rob, did you have something to add? I think.
Yeah, I'd say, Mumtaz, 5 items, no more than that.
Yeah, I think
all week.
Yeah.
And I agree, Laura, that a case study for each session would be good that falls in line with what the agenda items are.
I think one topic would be good.
One
well,
for me
eventually,
anyway.
once you have your agenda, maybe each session could focus on one single topic.
Yep.
Right.
Actually, that's the way we have our quarterly meeting. So this meeting is different from our quarter. This is like a celebration where we all get together and we talk about what happened last year and what we did. So we had 3 events last year, and they had a specific topic, meaning that we wanted to collaborate with AIA Detroit on design. We wanted to collaborate with lean construction on applying lean methodology, and we had the USDG with LEAD. So they were specific topics that we planned a year ahead, and we did it in 3 quarters. Each of those events had 6 guests. So each guest had 10 minutes to discuss their view, and they presented their case studies, and they presented and they did those discussions in those 10 minutes. And we have the recordings on the Cqm TV, so anybody who wants to go and look at those, they can go and watch it. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're planning for our next year. And one of the topics that is coming so frequently, for example, we were discussing lean, and we're discussing IPD, Integrated Project Delivery, and we're started talking about engaging stakeholders early with lead and other methodologies where you have the end user and the facility users come into the design and discussing what they're looking for. So it came to us that the next step in construction is construction 4.0, meaning that what can we do to achieve construction 4.0, this dreamy thought that I think Katira was one of the early adopters of the thinking that we can go manufacture setting, we can go use robotics, we can use digital transformation, we can use all these other technologies in order to advance the construction industry into the next industrial change. And unfortunately, as you know, they went so fast and so big so quickly that it attracted a lot of bad, I think, investment. And it wasn't because they failed on the concept of construction 4.0. It was more on the concept of venture capital and attracting funding for an idea that was new and was successful in its early conception. So for our next year, our topics are very, very definite. We're talking about PMIS systems. We're inviting PM Web and Procore and other softwares that are in the PMIS industry to come and show us case studies and show us ways we can use their tools in order to improve the way that we do business. The other topic that we're talking about is the use of BIM and the 360 cameras and how we can use the live data that is collected from these 3D and 360 cameras, for example, with Reconstruct and Open Space. These are the two leaders, and Autodesk is going to be also part of it. And then all together, we're going to talk about CQM 4.0, which is taking our CQM management to the next level using these tools and techniques. So what do you think from that perspective? If we define these three topics, like Brad said, not 10, not 5, we're just talking about 3 topics. How do you think we can make this 3 topics successful for next?
What were the 3? IPD, lean construction, and
no. IPD was last year. Last year we discussed IPD. This year we're going to discuss PMIS systems and BIM systems that use the 360 and point cloud to capture the live status of your project. So there are 2 softwares that do that. It's called Reconstruct and Open Space. There are multiple other ones.
Reality capture you're talking about.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And I think like topics like other interests are like blockchain in construction or other digital way of doing things. But I mean, there were a lot of other suggestions like blockchains and AI. And actually, another thing I forgot to mention is that we are teaming up with AI for AEC. They also do a lot of these events, but from the AI perspective only. We're looking at it from a bigger sense of quality management. So these are the 3 topics that we're talking about next year.
Harry, I mean, there's an observation right now is that you talked about 1 million things in the last 5 minutes. And that's the kind of thing that people outside of quality are listening to about what's going on in construction and digitization and all that sort of stuff. And then there's quality, okay? And so we're just another one of those things. So until we rise above the noise, you ain't got nothing.
Exactly.
You know?
Good point.
So,
yes.
You know, so if we fall into the same trap that our people that we're actually trying to get through with a quality message, and we fall into the exact same trap that we're trying to work them out of, I don't know if we have a chance, man.
The common denominator in everything that I discussed is how can we improve? That's what I'm saying, is that if there are tools, if there are techniques, if there are methodologies, as a PMP, which we are part of PMI, Project Management Institute promotes using the framework from PMBOK, but allows you to use any of these methodologies, any of these tools and methods to improve the way that you do, with the goal of improving the quality of your projects. Now, I understand that integration management is a big task in project management. I know that 90% of our time is spent on communication. We do a lot of planning, but the goal is to have a successful, quality, excellent mindset project. Now, all the stuff that I talked about are, like you said, the noise or the discussions in the industry that, okay, we have the best product, we have the best solution. Now we solved every problem that construction industry has to achieve construction 4.0. And we're trying to introduce it to our community to say, you decide, you know about these different things and how are you going to use and apply it. And that's the community of practice is actually for. We are sharing best practices and learning from each other, and our lesson learned, sharing the practice. Laura, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I have a friend who's an EMT, right? She was a medical technician. She retired, and she's part of a group that's doing health advisory. She's the Health Advisory Commission of Santa Clara County, advising the Health Advisory Board on critical health topics, right? And we did a little bit of consulting with health firms and hospital ones, but it's not my background. But they're trying to solve a problem around chronic disease. And the chair of this committee is thinking about talking about functional medicine. It's about a more holistic kind of approach to medicine. And not everybody's on that commission is on board with this idea. And my friend said, if you were going to approach us and talk about how to solve a problem, what were the steps that you would suggest? And I listed out a series of steps, starting with identifying the problem and understanding your stakeholders, and all of this. Went through a list and doing an analysis and weighting and rating different options based on how well they meet the requirements that you met regarding this problem and the root causes of it. And I had a whole list, right? And they thought the list was great, and they've asked me to come and talk to them. And I said, one of the first things I have to get clear with the chair of this committee is that it sounds to me like he's got a solution in search of a problem. And we need to start the other way around. And I think that's what's going to happen if we start talking about technology without understanding what it's meant to solve. What are we really trying to do with quality? Where are our roadblocks right now? What activities can we take to make a difference in those roadblocks? Can we apply our own tools to our own problems and say, let's do a root cause analysis of the problems we're having with quality, and then try to address those root causes? I would love to be involved in something like that. My firm, we're a small disadvantaged disabled veteran firm working on quality, mostly in construction, but also this telescope and high tech and other things. And we're really all about trying to find innovative ways to collaborate as much as possible. I heard talk earlier about the concern about being seen as the quality or safety police. And of course, we have the same with the quality police. The only way I think that we can get around that is to collaborate with those teams to say, our job is to make sure you can meet your requirements as easily as possible. Quality assurance processes are all about enabling. Those are the enabling processes. We identify the procedures, we help train people in procedures, we audit against the procedures after the fact. But all of that is an enabling to the quality control that's actually happening. And if we can be seen as a partner to them, and we can develop the quality control procedures that they would need to follow, that we can provide training in with them, then they're their own procedures. And as long as we can ensure they're at the right level of rigor for what's being developed and the tolerances of whatever product we're working on, then I think we have a chance of being seen as a partner. And especially if we can show them that by tracking these requirements through the project from start to end, and this is why I say we integrate with systems engineering, if we can show them the tracking of those requirements from start to end on a project, when you get to final acceptance, it's really just checking off the list. You don't have a 10,000 item punch list anymore, because you've been tracking your requirements all along. You know exactly where you met this particular requirement. You not only have the design, the page, the drawing number, the spec section number where that has been dictated, but you also have all the inspection and test reports attached to that one requirement in a system so that you can see that you met it. And now there's no question that you met it all along the way. And if you needed a variance, you have that documented too. So having some kind of a system in place, and this is where technology is an enabling process, right? Again, but first you've got to understand what it is you're trying to achieve, and then let the technology support that. I think having a year just focused on technology, we would end up losing time trying to get these agencies to understand why quality is important, how they should write their procurement documents to track requirements. How can we support that effort? What is it that quality is really all about, and how can we partner with them? How are we part of project management? How do we integrate with risk and systems engineering? If we can communicate those things to the agencies and the primes, I think we have a chance of making a difference in the industry much more than just looking at the technology. That's just my thought.
I agree. No, that's a good point. Rod, did you have something to say? You came a little bit closer to the mic, so.
Yeah, my statement to a contractor is, if you meet uniform building code, that's not my standards. My standards are much higher, and I will probably not accept something that just meets the minimum requirements under uniform building code or international building code. And what we have to understand is what's our desired outcome that we want to have for the longest time frame. And so part of it is, for quality, is what are we setting as our metrics? What are we setting as our outcome and our goal? And I mean,
how are you doing that?
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times you have to establish, here's what I have as my minimum standards, and this is what you have to do. Laura, you said you worked for Chevron also. I discovered after my first purchasing analysis that I made on my own that the purchasing department told me they'd remove appendages of mine that I didn't want to lose if I didn't have them involved in the future. And I discovered that we have inspectors that are actually in the field at a fabricator, checking the metallurgy stamps, checking the fabrication, checking everything that, you know, you assume when you buy something that it's going to come in perfectly. And unless you have somebody there making sure it gets done the right way, there's a chance that they say, nobody's looking, we can just send it off and let's see what happens. And I've actually returned a 20,000 gallon tank. We had an inspector inspect, and I said, whoever that inspector was, he's not working on my projects anymore. But the welds were done with the wrong welding rod. And you could just tell the porosity and the pinholes in the weld. And that sort of thing is, you know, it matters from a safety standpoint. In my tank will spring a leak and it was holding sulfuric acid. I don't want that to happen. And so the quality that gets put in is inspected. And I'll make an observation that a friend of mine worked for, I think, Ciba-Geigy or Bayer, and he said, the United States accepts lower quality products than we will in Germany. They'll send us our off test and we'll be happy with it because we didn't know and we didn't establish what we really wanted. And when they mean is off test is they're sending us all the byproducts that are purified for what they sell in Europe. And we need to make sure that what we get is a purified construction project. We don't want to have the off tests. We don't want to have the stuff that, you know, is filler and you have, you know, porosity in your concrete pores. You don't have the strength, and you don't have the actual dynamics of what's supposed to happen. And I'm looking every time I cross the Oakland-San Francisco bridge and all those bolts that snapped. You know, I'm wondering, guys, you know, are we going to the point of no return where someday the whole thing's just going to drop into the bay?
Well, and, you know, I worked on high-speed rail, and I know the guys who were part of the quality team when that happened. And that was very much a shoot the messenger situation. So it's not always that you have poor quality. Sometimes you have poor management that doesn't listen to your quality folks. What I did at Chevron was actually stakeholder analysis, engagement, and project management activity. And I learned a lot about stakeholder engagement. If we don't get the stakeholders on board, if you have a management structure like you have at high-speed rail, and I'm working on high-speed rail, and I'm advising some people up there as well about the problems we're seeing on the project level. But they have an environment of fear at the management, within the higher level of management. And there's many reasons for that, including the fact that some of the high-speed rail authority people were reporting to some consultants, which is just backwards. And so nobody knew who was in charge. So you have an environment of fear. And then people are afraid to speak up. And if they do speak up, they get shot. And that quality team was eventually pulled off the project. That same quality team that was on the Bay Bridge was on high-speed rail and eventually got pulled off the project. And, you know, and so there's a huge issue here that we need to understand that's bigger than just us, which is why I say you need a comprehensive quality management system and a management team that is ready to allow you to enforce, to implement and enforce, and even just design and write up that quality system as a comprehensive system. I'm on a project right now where they said, we want you to focus on QA and QC. We don't want you to talk about anything else about how we hire and fire and how we train our people. And okay, I cannot guarantee you're going to have quality because all the things that influence quality, all the things like staff qualifications, and I can't talk about that, right? How am I going to develop?
Most of the things that we are hurt by is the same thing that you just mentioned, because people are moving, people are not being trained well. They come to a new system, they don't know the process and procedures, and things fall through the crack, not because of the quality assurance or quality management, it's because they weren't able to do their part. So that's I think what the main concern is. And I hear all your concerns and all your issues, and we all are dealing with problems in our organizations, and we find different root causes in different problems that we find in our organization. For example, the procurement, of course, is a big thing. We had issue with our procurement as well, and we detected it through data collection, and we found the proper data of what we need to monitor and control. And I totally agree with all the stuff that you said, and also Rod said. And what I'm thinking is, now that we have only like 20 minutes to this event, and we're just gonna wrap it up. So in case somebody else has any questions or want to jump in, feel free to do that. There are so many topics that we can talk about, and there are so many things that we want to improve, especially the reason that we promote getting a maybe TMP certification, for example, or CQMC from U.S. Army Corps of Engineer, is to get people to know these topics and understand it. But the community of practice, when we get together, the goal is to share these best practices. The goal is to share these lessons learned. And I love hearing your perspectives, and I think that's one of the things that our people will benefit from by sitting in these meetings and watching our videos. But again, as I mentioned, the way that people are looking at quality at this moment, especially in organizations, is whenever there's a problem, like, where's the quality guy? Like, what are you talking about? I'm the quality guy, but I need quality culture. I need quality orientation. I need quality walks. I need quality procedures. I need quality tools. I need all that stuff. I can't just be the guy that whenever there's a problem, write a report and tell them what happened. Well, this is what happens is the integration between those people, the planning, the expectations are not defined well. And that's where the ball is falling through the crack, because nobody's catching it, nobody's looking at it. So this is the purpose of our community, is to discuss these issues and engage as many people with their perspectives and their thoughts on different topics. And I agree with you, maybe just limiting it on the entire thing on digital transformation, maybe it would not be as exciting for people and not top priority to people. So we're going to reconsider that. Thank you for your comment on that.
It's not that I don't think that's important, but at the moment it's a little bit like lipstick on a pig, as they say. We have a real problem here getting people to even know who we are and that we exist. So
actually, the reason we started this community in 2019 was because I got this new job with Brinker, and we were doing this project with DTE Energy, and they assigned me as the quality manager. And they didn't have a quality program per se for a large scale project like that. So that was my task, to create a quality program and to make sure that we do a good job in satisfying the needs of our customer and our owner. Mm-hmm. And because I got a 5 out of 5 star on that, we said, well, let's share this best practice with other companies. And this is how it grew to become a community. Now, one thing that happened out of this thing, whole thing, was I realized stakeholder management is the key for good quality management, meaning that you need to understand the expectation of your user, the owner, the sponsor, the engineer. Everything is because they tell you what is their main concern. Then you do risk assessment and risk analysis and risk registry. You make sure that those are forecasted in your procurement and how you're gonna stop issues and problems and how you can handle the different situations. So these are all topics in management, project management, quality management, and we'd like to continue discussing those, especially in a forum where students and new professionals, emerging professionals can come in and listen and see that we all agree on the same. I mean, it's good to disagree in panels and discussion panels, and which is totally fine. It's just when people come and see, oh, they're not in sync. Everybody's talking about different things and different issues and problems, and they actually get into the argument and they don't even know what they're talking about. That's when the kids become a little bit discouraged, like, you know what, they didn't figure it out yet on their side. Let them discuss it and get to an agreement first before I get myself confused. So what we say is in CQM, there's 4 components, and the most important one of them is meeting expectation, or the right expectation, as we discussed in our recordings. And then you have supervision, you have planning, and you have like quality assurance. And those discussions are always made in our chapter, and we kind of reiterate on the same concept, but with different themes and with different things. So I encourage you to look at some of our previous videos and give us feedback on those. Actually, I was going to give you guys the survey for the CQM, and we have actually 3 free tickets for the PMI IPM Day event, and we thought this was going to be this huge event where like 80-90 people at least show up, because 270 people said that they're going to come to this event. it might be an issue with our Zoom link or something.
You know, when you sign up, you get the Eventbrite notification that you're signed up. Then I had to go back in, log back into Eventbrite to get the Zoom link somehow. So it didn't give me an Outlook invite, which a lot of people do. That would maybe help. Allow me to download.
And that's the other thing, is I don't know how Eventbrite works. So we just put that up there. We put it on LinkedIn. I directly send calendar invite to my contacts, at least that I know, and I have them in my list. And we made it so easy. I mean, you can just come cqm.us/Zoom to this meeting, and there's no registration, no payment, nothing. You can just drop by, and we made it as easy as possible. But still, I think the timing was bad today.
Friday afternoon, maybe.
3 p.m. for us and 6 p.m. for Eastern time. So usually most of our guests are from the Eastern time, because we used to be in Michigan before. So 6 p.m. Friday, I don't think anybody's going to come and listen.
Maybe a lunchtime event for us, which would be 3 o'clock for them. That
I think that's what we're going to shoot for next time, is have a lunch time meeting. But please contact me, Laura, about that one student that you mentioned, because I'd like to talk to you about that. I received the email. It's just that I'm waiting to hear back from him before I respond to it. And we can engage students, chapters. As you see, we are growing the CQM into other PMI chapters. So now we have CQM in 2 chapters. We're talking to Atlanta and Texas to have that in those 2 areas as well. So it is growing. People are showing interest on the topic and the discussions that we have. And but like I said, we need to find that niche and that area where everybody can meet and say, you know what, this is the program that I need to sit in and maybe give my thought or collaborate and ideas and so forth. So that's what we're shooting for.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do you guys have any connection to the ASQ construction quality subgroup? Because I was part of that as well, and they were doing some good work too.
Yes. Last year, we actually took the idea of construction quality, because this is our 2nd year we're doing construction quality week celebration. And Walsh has been doing it on their own for the 4th year, actually. So ASQ actually has the quality celebration in November, and this is like in line with their stuff. But if you have any connections, if you think that we can use some of their resources, like I said, we're volunteer based. We're here to serve others. It's not like we're going to have any problems or issues with collaboration or promoting and cross-promoting others. So definitely, I mean, if ASQ is interested. Yes.
They were working a while back on a quality construction quality manager certification.
Mm-hmm.
And while they may or may not actually get that developed, and I haven't been in touch in a little while, so I need to find out the status, just the effort to try to develop that yields such great discussion on what does it really mean to be a quality manager? What are the components? What kind of background should the person have? And what are the activities the person should be doing? And by doing our own job definition or whatever you might want to say, gets us thinking about what our job is and how then we can sell that to others. Because I think in the end, a lot of our job is a sales job to get management to figure out who we are.
Exactly.
We haven't mentioned it, but one of the things that we should be thinking about meeting expectations should be what owners have as expectations for quality management by general contractors and so on. That I think one, like the Corps of Engineers, even though it's completely flawed specification, it actually gets things done where contractors have to have some quality control going on, QA, QC. There might be something about raising owners' expectations for what they should expect from quality from general contractors, and that will flow down through the whole process.
Right.
Definitely. Agreed.
Absolutely.
But
Thank you very much.
There is not.
That was great. Yes, good comments and good thoughts and discussions. And as I mentioned, our next event is going to be in March. So we are going to have a summary of our activities that happened during last year, and we'll upload it in our YouTube channel. And that has been the only communication channel for us right now is the YouTube channel and LinkedIn. But if you guys think that we should go into other things such as, like I said, the Clubhouse or maybe Twitter or something like that, let me know and make suggestions to it. And we have the link as cqm.us/survey for you to give your feedbacks, and hopefully we'll see you in the future events and have more collaboration in future events.
Can I just ask, can people put your contact information in the chat?
Yes, definitely. Yes, that's a great idea. Actually, this is the reason we have this event, is so people can collaborate with each other. They can and one more thing I wanted to show you. I don't know if you guys have visited our website. Let me share my screen and share this thing with you. So if you go to our website, and you will see all the, this would be the latest event that we have, and the registration page is here. So if you kind of lose the invite, or you don't know when the next event is, this will have the registration page and will take you to that event, right? This is our cause, what we're trying to do. PMI has introduced a new certification for the AEC industry. You can read about it here. This was where our upcoming events are updated, and then we discuss about what are we working on and so forth. So these are some of the previous events that we had: the lean construction, the IPD with AIA Detroit, the USGBC Detroit event. And we discussed, for example, using BIM for CQM, or using the EVM for scheduling, for example. So the videos are all available on YouTube. You can watch it. They discuss many interesting case studies, and there are things on the YouTube channel. We're part of the PMI GLC symposium, and we have a lot of good articles on our CQM page. So if you go on Take Action and find resources and discussion panels, it talks about our previous events. And then in the find resources, if you click on the CQM implementation, it's like a little manual or a little information kind of post that I kind of developed as we were discussing different topics and discussions. And we talk about risk management in CQM, we talk about training, we talk about root causes, we talked about philosophy. All these things are already discussed, and they're all available for free to all our members here. And there's no charge for taking it, unless, I mean, if you want to, you have to reference the sources, of course, if you're going to use it. But here's a link to our TQM. Here's other links to our trainings and events. And then this is one I wanted to show you is the Cqm Volunteers is one thing that you can fill in if you are interested to become volunteers. There's a form in there. There's also our about us. Oh, here it is. Okay. If I can find stuff on our website, that'd be good. If you go about us, and then there's one called CQM Experts. If you click on CQM Experts, you will find contact information to people that were part of our events. So this is like our first CQM event with Dr. Usman and Andy Wozniak and Haytham Sarsam and Ryan Ramirez. And these people, they were all either our guests or people that talked in our events, or they are part of our CQM community. And as people are coming to our community and added to this list, this list is growing and it's developing. So we put people's pictures and their LinkedIn and so forth. So if you are looking for information on any of these people, or you want to contact them directly through this page or through me, I'm more than happy to connect you with the right experts that we talked about, for example, scheduling, procurement, I don't know, safety, and other things like that. So that's a great resource for you there if you'd like.
Excellent.
Okay, great. And then you guys all know about our CQM, and then the CQM channel is called YouTube channel, Construction Quality Management. So you can go here, and then these are all our previous events. So lean construction with LCI is here. And then if you click on the first one, it takes you to the playlist. So everything is shown one after another. And those case studies that you guys were talking about, each one of these people, these are like great speakers, like Dave Kelly, for example. He's from Turner Construction. He's the VP of Turner Construction in Detroit. And he discusses, and he has maybe 10 different papers, and his PhD is on IPD projects. So what I'm trying to say is we have good members, we have good content, we have good information. The promotion and getting it out there is the issue. And because either we're all busy, we're all professionals, we don't have the tractions and interest from the younger generation because they're not using LinkedIn, they're not using websites to pull information. I just don't want people to get discouraged when they see something like this. This is something that we are doing because we feel that we need to give back to the community. But again, as I mentioned, everything is here. Chad Dorgan has the CQEC, for example. He does the Quality Thought podcast, and we share it here and so forth. So you can go look at these videos whenever you want, or share it with your companies and organizations when there's a discussion and you say, oh, you know what, I saw something like this, or there was a good video on EVM, for example, on CQM.us, and you can watch it, whatever. And the resources are available here for you for free. So that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody for attending, and I hope that we see you in March.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you for hosting this. I really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Harry. Nice meeting everyone.
Thank you. Nice
Hope to
meeting
speak
you
with you all
guys. Thank
soon.
you. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.